Some may ask, where are we right now? Within the grand scope of things, perhaps you believe that this day and age of technology and great innovations is the greatest of any epoch of man. However, with the advent of greater technologies comes many downsides. Upon birth, you have but 5 years until you are forced to participate in state-mandated schooling systems designed to break you down and morph you into little more than a worker ant. And as the years progress, any and all creativity and imagination is hammered out of your brain. There is no room for humanity in this world, no room for the indomitable human spirit. If you fail to conform to the whims of the authority figures throughout your life, you are exceedingly punished. And whenever you grow older and leave the broken and corrupt systems that have forged you, perhaps a bit of your true self will start to come out of your unconscious mind, that part of you that is true and eternal. Yet this part had been dimmed and nearly extinguished from a life of living by the orders of those above you. Perhaps you might start asking questions that you have never asked before. Who am I? Why am I here? What is the purpose to all of this? And most importantly, what is my purpose? In this modern age, we are cast down as but slaves to a decrepit system of lies and emotions, greed, envy, hatred, endless division. It is all here. And those who begin to break free of such things may come to realize the truth of this world, that in reality, there is no such thing as authority, and no meaning to living paycheck to paycheck. Nothing here of true intrinsic value. Just frivolous pursuits to gain more and more meaningless things. Cars, women, a nice house, all but mere illusions to a false world that was created by dead men. So there is no wonder why depression rates have skyrocketed. Suicide is at an all-time high, as well as homelessness and a multitude of other mental illnesses and diseases. As time goes on, it becomes harder and harder for those pulling the strings and perpetuating the false veils of lurid lies to keep up the act. It is all failing and falling apart, and that is plain to see by anyone whose eyes are opened. And what does this exactly have to do with depression itself, you may ask? Well, it has everything to do with it. From preschool to high school, you are expected to act a certain way, think a certain way, live a certain way, told by all of those around you that you should be someone else, someone you are not. And when the cracks of this lie creates deadly structural damage, that is when the depression seeps in. Perhaps you had been abused or have gone through traumatic events, dealt with crippling loneliness, and became an outsider. Whatever the cause, as the causes are greatly varied, you had fallen into the trap of the black waters of depression. Waters that I myself have known all too well. We have been told that we should just keep working for the rest of our lives in the vein of meaningless goals, that our unhappiness is brief and caused by us not having enough material gains. That could not be further from the truth. Some may mean well, but they have no idea of what the true extent of depression is or what it feels like to be caught in its grasp. No matter how hard you fight, no matter how much you do, it is always there, pulling you in as much as it can to the great abyss. I have heard the phrase many times that suicide is the coward's way out, and at first I believed that. But as the years have gone by, I have come to realize that that is a very narrow-minded sentiment stemming from those who know nothing about mental illness. We go to low-paid dead-end jobs to pay our bills recurrently for an indefinite time period. Most social interactions are fake and pompous. There is threats from every corner in this world to become a victim of a crime, yet we ourselves become frowned upon and shamed by preparing and strengthening ourselves for such things. Shamed for becoming who we are. Is it any wonder that people feel that there is only one way out? Someone who is suicidal cannot merely say, "Oh, that's the coward's way out. I'm glad I know that now, so there's no need to feel suicidal anymore." Of course, this we know is not true, and to those who say that ending your life is a coward's task, I wonder if they could say that about the over 30,000 veterans that have committed suicide since the turn of the century. Were some of those battle-hardened men cowards? Would you say that to the faces of their comrades at their funerals? This is just to show that this issue is far more complicated than just simply stating, "That's the coward's way out." So what is the truth then? Well, it is elusive, and mental states and their effects vary greatly from person to person. However, I shall draw from my own personal experiences to talk about this topic further. I have been down the rabbit hole of depression for over a decade now, and it has nearly taken my life a few times. Yet what I wish to discuss is the potential application for depression, and potential ways out of it. Ways that may be useful to some, though maybe not to all. At any rate, this is such a pressing and serious issue that it is at least worth this discussion, and I feel that I may have some insights that I hope may help at least someone. Now, what exactly is depression? Well, for me, I believe it to be an evolution of cognitive dissonance of sorts. I believe that depression arises when who you are as a person and your reality do not match that which is the reality of the outside world. That the true nature of this modern society does not match with your own feelings and thoughts and experiences. And so it creates a feeling of alienation, and eventually a feeling of resentment. For those around you do not understand how you feel or why you feel a certain way. Perhaps even you yourself do not understand why you are in such dire straits mentally. I have found that this depression is caused by a disconnect. The term that ignorance is bliss is truer than most people even realize. Have you ever wondered why so many can go about their day-to-day lives with no worries and no issues? It is like they were bred for this world, and that navigating its myriad problems is but second nature to them. Perhaps you feel inadequate then, like something is wrong with you and you alone, when in fact this ineffable feeling of loneliness and hopelessness is you beginning to understand who you truly are. Even if you do not realize it, I believe depression is but the first step in finding your spiritual path. You are not like them, and that is a good thing. You can harness that, find power within it. Yet many of us, and me included, have found it increasingly more and more difficult to function as a quote normal person within society. And that is because this modern civilization is only able to be ran efficiently if everyone is on the same page. And for all of us to be on the same page would be to denounce humanity itself. And so what this creates is a true and powerful cognitive dissonance, never able to find your true way in this complex world. Yet, it is within that same darkness, that same suffering that one can find light. And I argue that one cannot grasp enlightenment even in its most basic form if one has not gone through immense suffering. And there is no suffering greater than that which cannot be physically healed. Enlightenment itself has been debated for ages, its true nature unknown, for enlightenment is Zen itself. Zen, or the Chinese word Chan, can mean an elusive, profound, and intimate spiritual experience that cannot be explained to others. In fact, I believe that in attempting to discuss a Chan experience is to lessen its power, though that may not be true for all. Now, what I am arguing is that depression can be used to find an inner light that not many throughout history have been able to discover. For to attempt to cure depression is to go deep within ourselves, to the darkest parts of our minds that most people have no interest in ever exploring. Yin and yang, light and dark, all needed to find balance. As the Buddha discovered, there is no understanding truth without understanding the Four Noble Truths, chief among them that there is suffering in this world. And to have a deep understanding of this suffering is to walk the path of enlightenment. And the Buddha chose for himself to walk the path of suffering to find that inner light. And in the process, the Dharma was founded, a way out of suffering. Though this path is difficult and not made for everyone, and within Buddhism you will find the Eightfold Path, and one of the paths is right livelihood, meaning that one cannot achieve enlightenment without finding their right niche in this world. To live in accordance with your true self is to find peace, and by living a lie, by living in this material world, we may find it to be wholly barren of that peace that we seek, when in fact the peace can only come when one finds their true path. This, of course, can cause even more difficulties, as trying to find your true path can be maddening. And so one must go on a sort of hero's journey, rooted more in reality than in the fantastical allegory of the hero's journey itself. Yet it is a good basis to inspire and to follow. To find yourself, you must look inwards, and nothing is more of an inspiration to look inwards than to try to heal yourself of depression. Cognitive behavioral therapy and medication has helped some, yet what it does for many is merely delay the inevitable. It does not solve the problem at its roots. People will always look for the easy way out, and the road out of depression is not an easy one. It takes Herculean strength at times to even function whilst depressed, let alone cure it. And so when you run out of medication, you might find the counterstroke of getting off of it to be even worse than before you started taking it. It also can create an addiction to the drug, let alone the neurological changes that it invokes in your brain. No, this is a journey that you must go alone. And those who can reach the other side will find a truth within themselves that is eternal, a truth heralding back through the Akashic records to the beginning of time, and that is the path to self-actualization. And to walk this path of self-attainment takes great strength, and one might find no solutions within the realm of philosophy alone. One may find that this path leads nowhere, simply a road leading to a brick wall. And so you fall back to your old tendencies and habits. What you need is power. To gain power, one must fight even harder to maintain control of their faculties. This is where the will to power comes in. This term was coined by Friedrich Nietzsche, and as a philosophy, it states that all that leads to power is good, and all that leads to weakness is bad. By power, it is not meant to attain wealth or influence over others, but power over yourself. Power and discipline to gain true strength. A good way of doing this is to work out, though I believe partaking in a strong traditional martial art is best, especially one rooted in philosophy and deeper meanings. There is almost no better way to practice attainment of power than to practice a martial art. For the Shaolin monks of old would practice Kung Fu as a way to aid them on their path to enlightenment. Bodhidharma is who we think of as the creator of Shaolin, though that is not entirely true. Shaolin existed before Bodhidharma came to China, however, his teachings would lead to the Shaolin we know best today. When he came to the Shaolin temple, he saw the monks were lazy and would often fall asleep during meditation. In his fiery criticism, he was kicked out of the temple, at which point he went up high into the mountains and lived and meditated in a cave for 9 years. It is said that his gaze was so powerful that his eyes burned a hole in the stone itself. When he came back down, the monks were so impressed by his feat that he was welcomed back in. He would teach the monks a set of yogic breathing exercises that would go on to evolve and become the Kung Fu of Shaolin that we know of today. Chan Wu Yi, a term relating to the old trio of practices of Shaolin, Chan meaning the practice of Buddhism and meditation, Wu meaning the practice of martial arts, and Yi meaning medicine, or to heal oneself and others. One need not be an ascetic or Shaolin monk to take wisdom from Chan Wu Yi itself. It is a way of becoming the proverbial warrior monk, and to remember that healing is just as important as exercise. Take heed of the allegory of Bodhidharma's meditation in that cave. Think of yourself as a monk staring at a wall, and you will begin to further understand yourself. I believe Chan Wu Yi to be a great philosophy to think of when going about your day-to-day life, and it is a great method of satisfying the will to power, though it is power over yourself and not others that you should seek. Though I shall make no ifs and buts about it, this path is not an easy one. It is not sunshine and rainbows as some think the spiritual path to be. It can be harsh, and you may find yourself surrounded by your own abyss. Yet it is this abyss that you may find wisdom in. Odin hung himself on the world tree Yggdrasil and pierced himself with his spear Gungnir. He would refuse all help from the other gods. Instead, he teetered on the brink of death caused by his own hands. He sacrificed his lower self to his higher self, and in that great suffering he reached into the abyss and grasped onto the great knowledge in the form of the runes. Returning back from that darkness, he was barely alive, yet it was from that sacrifice for knowledge that we can take to be true wisdom. Nothing is made from nothing. A price must be paid. and oftentimes we shall pay that price with our sanity and with our own suffering. Carl Jung called this the confrontation with the unconscious, a process using what he called active imagination. I believe to achieve that will to power, to gain power over your own mind and body, and to discover who you truly are, you must confront your unconscious mind. It is a powerful and potentially dangerous process, one that I myself have experienced. By letting your mind go free, letting it fall to the darkness of your unconscious, you shall walk in a realm that few even know to exist. This realm exists completely separate from yourself, yet what happens in your conscious affects your unconscious and vice versa. As above, so below. By confronting the machinations of our unconscious mind, we may rid the barriers that hold our conscious and unconscious selves apart. By doing so, we may incorporate what Jung called our shadow selves. Each of us has a shadow, and the more we repress our shadow and hide it, the more it will control us and have power over our actions. It is imperative in my view that to get to the heart of the problem, to fully discover ourselves, we must confront our shadow and begin to incorporate it in healthy ways. I believe that a major cause of depression is the repression of our shadow. It is why so many combat veterans find it so difficult to return to typical modern life. To incorporate your shadow, to see and live the line between life and death, is to see the truth of reality. One cannot easily return to the weak life of modern living when one has peered past the veil, the illusion spell cast over this brave new world. This modern world naturally forces us to repress our shadow. We are taught from a young age that to hold power and strength is a bad thing, that only conformity and nicety are the true morals that one could ever hold. By living a lie that all humans are meant to be weak, we are actively pursuing weakness instead of power. That which leads to the last man that Nietzsche spoke of. The last man being the final consequence of modern life, the consequence of seeking the opposite path of the divinity of self. Weak humans kneeling at the feet of their oppressors, unable to think nor fend for themselves. The remedy to this is the will to power. And to me, the remedy to depression lies somewhere within that arduous road. Walking the path of self-attainment, you will first be confronted with truths. At first, these truths will be muddled, only coming out in periodic bursts of understanding. Yet eventually you shall realize that you have been given a path that is yours alone, a lonely path, yet one that can lead to great wisdom and strength if walked properly. By treading this ancient path, you will discover your inner connection with the cosmos and the natural world, and so you may find the modern world to be unfitting of your spirit. And in that revelation you may begin to feel more depressed than before, that there is no purpose, that you are trapped. Yet you are never trapped, my friend, and you are never truly alone. Many have walked this path before you, and many walk their own paths parallel to yours. Just remember that when you are going through a depressive episode, that it is your mind telling you that you need to seek something. It is a survival mechanism screaming for you to break free. And that by following the ways of old, working out, and staying in your lane, you may find a path of peace, your own path, a path to self-actualization.